My name is Ethan Cole, and I'm 29 years old living right here in Asheville, North Carolina, where the mountains roll green and thick like a blanket over the horizon, and the air smells like pine and rain no matter what time of year it is. I've lived here my whole life, born and raised in this town, where everybody knows your name if they've been around long enough. And if they don't, they will eventually, because secrets don't stay buried in places like this. People talk and gossip spreads faster than wildfire in dry season, and that's exactly what happened to me. But not because of something I did at first. No, it started because of someone else's lie. Someone I trusted more than anyone else in the world. My best friend since third grade, the guy I went to high school with, the guy who stood beside me when my dad died, the guy who said he'd always have my back. His name is Derek Mason. And until 6 months ago, I would have taken a bullet for him without blinking, but now I wouldn't spit on him if he was on fire. I used to run a small but steady landscaping business here in town, cutting grass, trimming hedges, planting flower beds for old ladies and wealthy retirees who wanted their lawns perfect. I didn't get rich doing it, but I made enough to pay my bills, live in a modest house my dad left me, and save a little every month. I wasn't chasing money, I was chasing peace. I liked the quiet of early mornings with my mower humming in the cool air, the satisfaction of seeing a yard go from messy to clean the way people would smile and say thank you. It made me feel useful and honest. That all changed when Derek came back into my life after being gone for nearly 5 years. He had moved to Charlotte to work in construction, and we stayed in touch off and on, but not like before. Then one day he showed up at my office, which is really just a storage trailer behind my house with a desk, and said he was back for good. He looked good, tan, strong, confident, wearing a new watch and clean clothes, and he said he had a proposal for me. He wanted to go into business together. He said he had connections now, people with money who wanted high-end outdoor project stuff I'd never been able to touch before: patios, waterfalls, outdoor kitchens. He said he could bring in the clients, and I could handle the work. We'd split everything 50-50. I hesitated at first because I'm not a greedy man, but I'm also not stupid. I knew partnership could go bad fast, but Derek kept saying it was family, it was trust, it was honoring what we had. And after a few beers and a lot of memories, I said yes. I signed the papers he brought over the next day. We became Cole and Mason Landscapes LLC. And for the first few months it was amazing. Just like he promised, the money started flowing and new trucks were bought. I hired 2 more guys. We upgraded all our tools. I thought we were building something real, something that would last. I even started thinking about expanding, maybe opening a nursery someday. But then the cracks started to show first. It was little things. Clients would call and say they hadn't been billed, but Derek said he'd handle it. Then I'd find out weeks later the job was already paid, and the money never made it to our account. Then he started missing meetings, saying he was stuck in traffic or had a family thing. But when I called his phone, it went straight to voicemail. Then one afternoon I got a text from a customer, Mrs. Harlow, who lives up in the Montford district, asking why her final invoice was double what we called Derek right away. He said it must be a mistake, he'd fix it. But when I checked our books, there was no record of her final payment at all. And the amount owed on our side was wrong too. It was like the job had been underreported intentionally. I drove to her house myself, and she showed me the receipt. She had paid in full 6 weeks ago, cash, and the signature on it wasn't mine, it was Derek. As I felt sick standing there in her driveway, my hands shaking, as I realized what was happening. My best friend was stealing from me. I confronted him that night at his apartment in the city. He laughed at first, said I was paranoid, said he must have made an accounting error, said I should calm down and trust him. But I wasn't buying it anymore, so I started digging. I went through every invoice, every bank deposit, every job we'd done over the last 4 months. I pulled records from the bank and found nearly $40,000 in cash payments that had never been deposited. I found fake invoices he'd created for jobs that never happened, and I found bank withdrawals he'd made from a secondary account I didn't even know we had. He'd opened it without telling me, in both our names, so he could take money out anytime he wanted. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking how many times he'd clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Brother, this is going to change our lives." And all the while he was bleeding me dry. I decided to go to the police, but before I could, my business imploded. 2 more clients filed formal complaints. Both said they'd paid cash and got nothing in return. One said Derek had told him the job was complete, but I'd refused to finish it to extort more money. Another said I'd taken the money and disappeared. I was stunned. Nobody believed me when I said Derek had taken the money. They saw the signatures, they saw the receipts, they saw my name on the account. I tried to explain, but it sounded like excuses, so I filed a police report anyway. The detective listened and said they'd look into it, but warned me it could take months, and that without a solid paper trail linking Derek directly to the thefts, it might not lead to charges. I felt helpless. I started losing clients. I had to let my workers go. I couldn't afford the trucks anymore. I sold one just to keep the lights on. And then one morning I woke up to a notice from the county saying Cole and Mason Landscapes was being investigated for consumer fraud, and if I didn't respond, the license would be suspended. I thought my life was over, everything I'd worked for gone because of a man I called a brother. Then I got a call from an old friend of my dad's, a retired cop named Ray Thompson. He'd heard about what was happening, and he told me to come see him and not to trust the official channels, because if Derek was smart enough to steal like this, he was smart enough to cover it well. Ray had been a detective for 32 years, and he'd seen all kinds of betrayal, and he said the first rule of catching a thief is you don't let them know you're onto them. You watch, you wait, you let them think they've won, and then you strike when they least expect it. So I shut down the business publicly. I posted on Facebook that I was closing due to financial hardship. I sold the rest of the equipment, and I told everyone I was leaving town to stay with a cousin in Tennessee. What nobody knew was I wasn't going anywhere. I was staying right here in Asheville, hiding in plain sight in a small cabin my dad had bought years ago. Up in the Black Mountains where no one would think to look, Ray helped me set it up. He gave me an old burner phone and told me to listen and learn, so I did. I started watching Derek. At first, he acted like he was devastated, like the business falling apart had broken him. He posted sad things on social media about how Ethan had run off with the money and abandoned him, how he was trying to rebuild on his own. People felt sorry for him. They sent him donations, they offered him jobs. He started a company called Mason Outdoor Designs, and within weeks he had 5 crews working. He bought a brand new truck with a lift gate and a logo wrap. He was living better than ever while I was eating canned beans in a cold cabin with no internet and 1 bar on my phone. But then I saw something that made my blood freeze. I saw him with a woman he'd been spending a lot of time with. Her name was Claire. She worked in real estate. She was pretty elegant, always dressed nice. I'd met her once at a business mixer. She'd seemed kind. I didn't think anything of it at first, until I saw them at a diner late one night, not on a date, not holding hands, but talking seriously like they were planning something. I followed them from a distance when they left. They went to a storage facility down by the river, not the kind where people keep furniture, the kind with high security and surveillance. I waited until Derek left, then I took note of the unit number. A few days later, I drove past the storage unit and saw Claire there. Again, she had a key. She went in and came out with a small metal box. She put it in her trunk and drove off. I didn't follow her because I didn't want to blow my cover, but I knew I had to see what was inside, so I waited and watched. And a week later she came back alone. This time she didn't bring the box. She went in and stayed for over an hour. I knew she was hiding it somewhere inside. That's when I called Ray. Ray said we needed proof, not just suspicion. We needed something that tied Derek directly to stolen money, something undeniable. So we planned a move. Ray knew a guy who worked at the storage facility, a former cop who owed him a favor. We couldn't break in, but we could get eyes inside. We arranged for maintenance to check the sprinkler system near Unit 314, the unit we believed belonged to Derek or Claire, while they were inside. And the inspector carried a small camera on his belt that sent live video to Ray's phone. We only needed a few minutes, and we got them. What we saw made me want to vomit. Claire was inside, kneeling by an open crate full of stacks of cash, hundreds of thousands of dollars in bundles, some wrapped in plastic, some loose, along with fake invoices, customer files from our old business, and a letter written in Derek's handwriting listing payments he'd pocketed with notes like Ethan doesn't know, still believes we're 50-50, and easy money from gullible clients. There were also checks made out to cash with my signature forged perfectly, and a list of names with dollar amounts next to them, some marked paid, some marked due, and one that said Ethan right off. He's finished. The worst part was a photo of me sitting on my porch smiling with the word mark scribbled across my face. He'd been planning this for years, using me as a front, building trust, so he could steal and walk away clean while I took the fall. I wanted to go to the police right then, but Ray stopped me. He said we needed one more thing, a confession, a moment where Derek admitted what he'd done in front of witnesses or on tape. Otherwise it would just be his word against the evidence, and the courts like proof. They can hear a man say it himself. So we set a trap. I came out of hiding. I showed up at a local hardware store where Derek was buying supplies. I made sure he saw me. I looked rough, unshaven, tired, dirty. I let him think I was broken. I told him I had nothing left. I was about to leave town for good. I just wanted to say goodbye and thank him for the good times. He pretended to feel bad. He bought me coffee at a diner and said he didn't know things would go this way, said he tried to save the business. But I checked out, said he hoped I could start over somewhere else. I played along. I looked down at the table and said, I just don't understand how it fell apart. I trusted you like family. Why would you do that to me? And he said quietly, because you were weak, Ethan. That's why, because you never wanted more. You were happy with small jobs and small money. I had dreams, I had plans, and you were just the name on the paperwork. The local guy with the reputation. I needed to get in the door. Once I had that, I didn't need you anymore. And honestly, I'm doing better than ever. And he smiled a cold smile and said, maybe one day you'll thank me for pushing you out. I nearly jumped across the table and strangled him, but I held back. I kept my face blank and said quietly, I can't go to the police without proof. But if there was proof, would you admit it? And he laughed and said, even if they had proof, the money's gone. There's no way to trace it all, and besides, who would believe you? And I said softly, I believe me, and that's enough. And that's when I stood up and said, one last thing before I left, you should have made sure I was really gone. And then I walked out and got in my truck and called Ray. We had what we needed, the video, the ledger, and now a recorded confession from a hidden mic I'd been wearing the whole time. It was over the next day. Ray helped me deliver everything to the district attorney. The evidence was solid. The police moved fast. They storage unit. They found the money, most of it still there. They pulled bank records. They found transfers to offshore accounts. They brought Derek in for questioning, and when they played the recording of him confessing, he broke down. He admitted everything, said he'd been planning it for years, said he'd targeted me because I was trustworthy and naive, said he never saw me as a friend, just a stepping stone. Claire was arrested too. She was his accomplice. They'd been involved for over a year. She'd helped him forge documents and launder money. They both lost everything. Their licenses were revoked, their assets seized, the new business was shut down, the truck taken, the house foreclosed. They were sentenced to 5 years in prison. Neither got out early. I didn't feel joy when I heard the verdict. I felt relief and grief and anger and exhaustion. I'd lost 2 years of my life. I'd lost my business, my reputation, my peace. But I didn't lose myself. I rebuilt from nothing. I used the recovered money to restart, but this time under a new name. Ethan Cole Landscaping. No partners, no shared accounts, just me and integrity. I started small, mowing lawns, planting gardens. But word spread what had happened. People were outraged. They supported me. Donations came in, clients returned, new ones found me. Within a year, I was busier than ever. Within 2, I had 10 employees and a showroom. I even started offering free workshops for young guys who wanted to learn the trade, to teach them about contracts and trust and warning signs. Last month I was invited to speak at a small business conference in Asheville. And as I stood on stage telling my story, a man raised his hand. He said, "I know Derek, he's my cousin. And I just want to say I'm sorry for what he did. I didn't know." Then I nodded and said, "I appreciate that," and I was about to move on when he said something that froze me. He said, "But you should know he talks about you all the time in prison. He says you're the only one who ever beat him, and he doesn't hate you, he respects you more than anyone. Because you were smart enough to fight back, and in a weird way he's proud of what you became because of him." I didn't answer right away. I just looked out at the crowd. And then I said this: "The man who tried to destroy me gave me a gift. He taught me that trust is precious and should never be given lightly, but he also taught me that broken things can be fixed. Sometimes they come back stronger than before, and that revenge isn't about destroying someone, it's about refusing to let them win and building something so real, so honest, so unshakable that their lies can't touch it. That's how you win, not by tearing them down, but by rising so far above them they can't even see you anymore." And as I stepped off that stage, I knew I wasn't just healed, I was rebuilt, and this time no one was going to take it from me again.